we're here with the co-founder of Scratch DJ Academy, Rob Principe. Rob, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Listen, man, you have created, along with Jam Master Jay, a phenomenal academy. What inspired it?
It's a great question. I noticed that DJs were today's rock stars, ubiquitous in our culture. You can find them in clubs and bars and hotels, on TV and movies, in retail stores all over, but there was a tremendously high barrier to entry for the art form. It just didn't add up to me. DJs were so interwoven in the fabric of our pop culture, but yet accessing the art form was really difficult. So the demand to learn outweighed the supply of teachers, and the cost of the equipment was really expensive, and nobody was there to help people navigate it. So that high barrier to entry gave me the sort of the impetus to start thinking about, how do we lower this? How do we create an on-ramp to this incredibly dynamic art form that's everywhere around us?
Now, your relationship with Jam Master Jay, did it exist prior to Scratch, or did it come about because of Scratch?
I will tell you a funny story. I grew up playing tennis, and I was playing a tennis tournament in San Diego in 1985. And my plane had a stopover in Denver airport, and on our plane came Run DMC. They were performing at the New York City Fresh Fest, which was the first hip-hop arena tour that the country ever had. And their manager was Leroy Cohen, and everyone performed at the Fresh Fest. The Fat Boys, Houdini, Salt and Pepper, Grandmaster Flash, Furious 5. It was insane. And I was a huge fan of Run DMC at that time. I was in 6th grade, and I actually got to sit next to Jay on the plane. And I got to take some amazing pictures with them. Then I also got backstage passes, which Leroy Cohen gave to my mother for me to go see them perform later that night. But we took some amazing pictures. Fast forward, 20 years later, and I approached Jay with the concept, and I approached him in the green room of the Letterman show.
Really?
He was getting his hair cut, and I had my 2 minutes with him. And I actually brought the pictures, and I said, you know, we actually met once before. And I showed him the pictures, and it was a great way to get Jay comfortable.
Right.
And then I actually pitched him on the idea. And the way I presented it was that this is a really dynamic art form, but people don't have access to it.
Right.
People were yet to embrace it. You're still coming out of the Beatles, and Elvis, just clean cut, kind of rock and roll, and this unconstructed art form wasn't getting any traction. And then slowly people understood the value of it and the musicianship of it, and now it's taught in every college, university around the world, and the world's a better place for it.
Tremendous amount of respect as an actual art form.
Exactly right, and I thought, why can't we do this with DJing? DJs are musicians, turntables are instruments, and DJing as a whole is an art form, but yet no one has lowered the barrier to entry and created an on-ramp and consolidated the very fragmented space.
So you started with Jam Master Jay.
Mm-hmm.
He was taken away from us way too soon.
Right.
But his son, TJ Mizell, is here. Tell me about that.
Well, I got to first meet TJ when he was 12 or 13 years old, and it was with Jay. And Jay, when Jay wasn't working, he was with his children, and it was a beautiful thing. He was truly a family man. We gave TJ his first set of turntables at 12 or 13 years old. And then TJ did his own thing, and he went to college and moved back to New York. And I realized when he came back to New York just how dynamic of a person he was. And I'm still very close with his mother. And I felt not only was it my moral obligation, but it was my personal interest to take him in and start to work with him and build with him. Because when I initially pitched Jay in the green room of the Letterman show, we both talked about leaving a legacy, and we both talked about having our children be a part of this. I didn't have children at the time, but Jay did. So this was about, I want to pass this on. I want something for my son to be able to do. And now we're actually fulfilling that dream. So it's actually incredibly rewarding, but it's made so much easier because TJ is such an amazing human being.
Do you get any opposition? I mean, even though hip hop is everywhere, it's in commercials,
Sure.
it's in TV shows, so it's mainstream, but do you find that you still get some opposition when you say, I want to open a DJ Academy here? Do people immediately go into the, oh, there's going to be trouble kind of feeling?
It's a great question, and I thought about that a lot before I opened it up, which is why we're so meticulous about the experience and the space and the curriculum and the teachers and the equipment. All of it has to be right. But really, one myth that we try to dispel is we consider ourselves here genre agnostic. So we are teaching people how to use an instrument, and essentially we're teaching them how to paint, but not telling them what to paint. So we get people, fathers and sons and no hair and purple hair and green hair and tattoos and no tattoos and piercings and no piercings. And what brings them all together here is their interest and love of music and their interest in interacting with it in a more meaningful way. And that spans all of the genres of music.
So what's next for Scratch DJ Academy?
We like to think global domination, but we're going to start
in a nice
way. Not in a Dr. Evil way, but in a music way, right? But really for us, it's about how do we take this art form, how do we continue to lower the barrier to entry, and how do we get as many people involved with this as possible. So right now we're in New York, Miami, LA, and Chicago. We're looking at opening in other locations. We're looking at partnering with other people. It's taking this amazing curriculum that we've built and it's integrating it also with the other parts of our business. So Scratch Music Group, it's not just Scratch DJ Academy, it's Scratch Events, where we're the country's largest corporate DJ booking provider. It's also Scratch Weddings. We're the leading provider in the $1.1 billion wedding DJ market. So it's really about advancing all three of those agendas, opening up as many locations as we can, exposing as many people as we can to this amazing dynamic art form, and continuing to provide all these great opportunities for DJs that possibly didn't have them before.
Wow. Rob Principe, thank you very much for your time, and I love what you're doing with Scratch. Continued success.
Thanks so much.